Welcome, board game soloists, to Top 5 Solo Games. This is J. Allen Riker, horror author and board game fanatic, and this is going to be an unboxing of Dungeons of Doria. I've never done an unboxing video before, but I thought that some people might be interested in it, and this is a game that I think it did well on its crowdfunding campaign, but it's not a huge game that everybody's seen. So I thought that some people might enjoy seeing what's inside the box. And anyway, yeah, so let's get going with it. This is going to be a little bit more casual than my videos. You might wonder how that's possible. Maybe my videos seem super casual, but I really don't have anything planned at all to say for this one. So maybe I'll play the whole thing and fast forward. I don't know. So first, we just take a look at the box itself. It is a big ol' honkin' chonk of a box. It is absolutely loaded with my understanding with a ton of loot cards. It's got standees, it's got tiles, it's got everything you need right here in the one box. Some of these big box dungeon crawlers that seem to all pop up right around this time. Some of them you didn't get necessarily everything all in the same package, but it seems to me that with Dungeons of Doria, you can buy this one box and have everything you need to enjoy the game. So I'll say that the shrink wrap is incredibly thick. I think that's definitely a good thing when you're talking about freighting these things in from China. My box, Dungeons of Doria, someone along the process had kind of smashed it on one side, and it doesn't seem to have harmed this interior box at all. I'm really happy to see that, and I'm sure that this extremely intense, like you can typically look. I wouldn't normally remark on this, so that this is literally the thickest shrink wrap that I have ever encountered on a board game, and I kind of love it. I've tried a new mounting system for the camera, and because typically it shakes whenever I touch the table, so I'm hoping this solves that. Okay, let's take a look at this. First question always is, how tight of a seal are these? Oh, that's a tight. Okay, there we go. There we go. Nice seal, but doesn't form such a vacuum that it's frightening to try to pull it out. So it looks like we've got a big stack of tokens. Move the box. So I'm gonna move the box lid out of the way entirely. There we go. I believe these are monster tokens for use on for identifying them on the initiative track. The initiative track is actually what I think made up my mind on getting this game. So if you look at the art, it's kind of it looks a little bit, it looks CG to me, which you might like or you might not. It doesn't look painted when I'm looking at like the rocks and I'm looking at the flames. It looks computer generated. So these are very clear and they're large. These tokens are really big for the amount of information on them. Definitely has its pluses and minuses. You've got your gold here. I've recently started using poker chips that have denomination on them for gold, so it doesn't matter to me that much. I find it interesting that these are all circular, but then the gold are square. That's a little bit strange of a choice to me. But, okay, here we have, set these aside. We go through them. We have the first standees. You can see they don't show facing. I'm guessing that means that facing does not matter in this game. I've watched some videos on it, but I haven't actually watched playthroughs. I watched some previews and reviews. They're really nice looking. See the art there. They're really nice standees. If, however, you have standees that you prefer, you already own, sure they would. These are all easy. You've got your skeletons, you've got your orcs, you've got your goblins. So nothing too crazy. It's a really nice looking dragon there. You've got your heart tokens. I've actually got a bag absolutely loaded with these from different games where, like Eon's End, where you get multiple ones and you just don't need the hearts over and over and over again. I actually tend to not use hearts anyway myself. I've got some just health dials, some extras from other games, and also some that I purchased, and I tend to use those. But I do have a big bag of hearts. There are some games where they work well, where I like them better than an external tracking method, but I don't tend to use them. These are very small little tokens. Some of the smallest that I've seen in a board game, actually. Okay, that brings us to the books. Got the Book of Rules. It's got a map of Doria on the backside. A nice looking map. So, table of contents. Always good to see. It's not a guarantee. It should be. Oh, and an index. That's even less of a guarantee. So that's nice. It's not huge, but hopefully it covers everything. Got your featured Kickstarter supporters there. This is a pretty sizable rule book. It looks like it's broken up nicely. I enjoy having examples, and then I like that when they're marked out clearly so that when you're actually using the book for reference, that your eyes kind of learn to skip over them. Yeah, so there's the rule book. Single scenarios. This is big for me. I do not always want to play a campaign. Very often, I actually don't want to play campaigns. At least I want to play them. I tend to keep games on my table for 1 or 2 weeks. So I will play campaigns, and however far I get in 1 or 2 weeks is how far I get. So having the option to do shorter campaigns and single scenarios, I always really appreciate. We got a table of contents here with all of the single scenarios. Defeat Slimezilla. I love that. Fly, you fools. The Bridge of Katsa-Doom. Cool. I don't want to spoil anything. So I'm looking at the scenario setup where you're grabbing your tiles. I like that the dungeon is generated so it's got the tiles it calls out the tiles that it's going to need, but then it's randomly generated, and it looks like you add some random rooms along with the specific tiles that you need. So my understanding from what I've seen is that there's a really is that there are good room descriptions. That's always nice to have some extra flavor. Got the quick start guide, unpack the game and learn the basics. Set up your very first game and learn to play with 4 characters. This guide will show you the basic steps to playing Dungeons of Doria in a fictional predefined scenario. So 4 characters. I have heard that you can solo this with 3 or 4. After seeing how big the character sheets are, I am betting that I cannot fit 4 of them on my table. And I read as I was deciding whether or not I would open this game or I would just sell it, because table size is something that I don't like to, I try not to budge on it. And the reason is because if a game is too tight on my table, it can negatively impact my feelings about the game. So it's almost like futile. It's not like, oh, okay, I can make this work, but then I'll make it work, but it'll make the game frustrate me if I'm having to constantly shuffle stuff around and don't have enough room to check reference material if a lot of referencing is needed. When I look at that rule book, I'm thinking that it does not look to me like it's going to take a ton of referencing once you get the game down. Grim Reaper. A campaign for up to 6 players. Play through 8 scenarios, searching for 6 artifacts that belong to the Grim Reaper. See? Now this is what I'm talking about. I love that. 8 scenarios. So for me, I don't usually play more than a scenario not an evening unless they're very short. Like if I'm playing Hoplomachus Victorum, then yeah, those are like, 15, 20-minute battles. And I just can't, once I can't stop. It's like opening a bag of chips and trying to eat just one. But with something like this, where I'm guessing you'll have a satisfying experience over the course of 1 to 2 hours, I don't know if that's the actual gameplay time on average, but I'm assuming that each scenario, you'll be satisfied with it. 8 scenarios, that works really well within my 2 weeks that it'll be on the table. I love that. Power of the Elements, 9 scenarios, recovering 4 elemental artifacts. So that sounds great. Here. So what I'm noticing, these seem to be kind of MacGuffin heavy. 8 scenarios searching for 6 artifacts, 9 scenarios searching for 4 artifacts. That's fine. These narratives, like, just due to the structure of games itself, it can be hard if you want to get super focused on the narrative, then it can be hard to feel like you're playing a game while you're doing that. You have to have some control over a story. And the whole thing with a game is, player agency. And if you're removing the player agency in order to tell the story that you want to tell, I don't think that that's a good trade-off. I think you're trading off something that's like essential for a game to something that's completely optional in a game. So when I see MacGuffins driving the action, I'm happy with that. That actually is encouraging. Campaign, the Book of Destiny, a campaign for up to 6 players who must save the continent of Doria. Play through 8 of 17 different scenarios by choosing your path through this epic adventure. Love it. See, now these are the size of campaigns that I didn't even know that. And now this makes me super happy that I didn't just sell this out. I am hoping that I'm able to play these with 3 players comfortably. So each scenario is designed for a game session of approximately 2 to 5 hours. So that's a bit of a beast of a game, but that just means I need to start a little earlier in the evening. That works. Or I might be splitting them in half. And that would push my 2-week limit on any given campaign. But if I'm having fun, I'll leave it out for a third. I've left games out for a month before. So here's a little secret that I've never told you guys, is that most of the time I actually have 2 game tables. I know, luxury, right? Now they're both 33-inch game tables, but it lets me keep up one long game and then have one shorter game also. They're in different rooms of the house, so I couldn't replace them with one big game table if that's what you're thinking. Invasion of the Greenskins. Play through 8 to 10 scenarios of a continuous story. So definitely that's pushing the limits of how long I would want to play a campaign, but it's absolutely nothing compared to these 100 installment campaign games, so I'm happy with it. Okay, and this is a book that I've heard a lot about, room events. So random room events for all of the included 48 rooms. Optional room, these are optional, but it gives you some flavor. It gives you one event per room tile. It lets you, I guess, interact probably with the art that's specifically on the tile. And what I like about this is that because it seems like for a number of the scenarios that you're actually choosing specific tiles out, I'm guessing that the events that happen in them are thematic to whatever they're being used in. Don't know that yet, obviously. So here it is, the famous initiative and AP tracker, action point tracker. We've got two different versions, one that kind of spirals, and I believe that this is the one that was created as a redesign because one thing that people thought was that this wouldn't give you an at a glance ability to tell like how long you have before the enemies act. So the way that this works is you will have a base amount of AP, I believe, per character. And so this is the funny thing about an unboxing is that I'm not, you know, I'm not educated on the game yet. I've never played it. I haven't read the rule book. So I'm going only off of videos that I've seen. But each character is going to have some base amount of AP, and then you're rolling a die that will, or die or dice, I don't know, that will add extra action points. And then you can do any number of different actions, and as you do, you've got places. You put your monsters and your hero markers on here, and then whoever has the most AP gets to take the action. So you get to really control. You have a lot of choice over who goes when. It gives you a lot of decisions to make about, do you take the big action? Do you squeeze in a bunch of small actions all at once? It lets how far can you move? Because I think I don't know if it's one action point per square. But I think that that's the case. And so, can you get far enough away from the monster? I know that in the early levels of this game, the monsters are really killer because it's not some of them that have armor because your characters start out with weapons that only do one damage, and that first damage gets absorbed by armor. You actually have to roll exploding dice, I believe is what it is, to do more damage than the weapon can do in order to be able to harm them. So I've heard, I think it was Geek Gamer was talking about how a lot of times they were just calculatedly getting as far away from the monsters as they could. And because you can see how far you can move before a monster activates and then how much that monster is going to be able to activate, it lets you plan those sorts of things out. That sounds really fun to me. This one lets you tell at a glance like who's ahead, how far, except for this little winding bit right here. And so I think that this was a good idea if I'm understanding correctly. All right, so here we have one issue that I'd heard about the shipping, and that is because the cards were just put inside of plastic, or sorry, inside of a paper little. I can't remember what these are called. I've heard the term recently. Wrapper that they have. Some of them have slid off during transport, which is okay. It doesn't look like anything got hurt. They were all contained underneath the boards, so I say no harm, no foul. And I like these. Actually, it means I'm not going to need my knife nearly so much. I'm used to using that on the plastic wrap around cards a lot. So What are these? I don't know if these are all the same thing. No. So you've got different. We've got different mixed cards here. Although it looks like they were all in the same wrapper. Hope the order wasn't important. I believe that on some of them that the starting, or when it comes to the equipment, that the starting equipment was separate in a separate spot. That's fine. That's no big deal. I think. I say that. But what do I know? I haven't even read the rules yet. I'm going to straighten these out and put this in fast forward. You know what? Maybe this is a good time, since I'm sorting these cards, to just broach a discussion. I haven't fully thought through it, so I don't want to go too far into it. But I was thinking, this there was a flurry of games that came out right here at this time that. And I backed a number of them. So there was like Dungeons of Infinity, which I don't think falls into this camp. It's like it's not trying to be an old school dungeon crawler. I don't believe in the slightest. It doesn't have its movement isn't on a grid. It's like room by room. Then you've got a bunch of games like League of Dungeoneers, Dungeon Universalis, Dungeon Crusades. I don't know. And then here we have Dungeons of Doria, and it's interesting because it's kind of like, if you know what happened in RPGs, a lot of people were saying, why are these role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons, getting so many rules? Like, why are we spending so much time doing math? Let's have an old school renaissance. So the OSR games started coming out, and the basic philosophy, if you were to boil it down to like one sentence, would be rulings over rules. So more about the role playing, more about the game master telling you what was possible, or creating ramifications, saying how you can make something work, right? So fewer rules, more rulings. Then the interesting thing is that it feels like the old school renaissance in board games is exactly the opposite. Obviously, there's no such thing as rulings, but they're saying we need to go back to the old ways and do a lot of math, which I like a crunchy game just fine. I like made a number of videos about analysis paralysis and my enjoyment of really thinking through what I'm doing. But what I found with some of these games that really disappointed me was that this crunch like didn't result in any extra decisions to be made. Like, you were on rails. Like, the best choice would be to always attack twice if possible. You just had to do a lot of calculations to make that happen. I don't like that. Like, that's not good. If it's going to be, if there aren't going to be a ton of choices, like when I play 4 Against Darkness, the combat doesn't lend itself to a lot of choices. If you have magic classes, then you're deciding how long to withhold, when to use those, and that's that's standard sort of choice. But other than that, like, you're not making a ton of choices, but that's fine. That game flows. It's so smooth. If I'm gonna play a game where I'm doing a bunch of crunching of numbers, I want to check the numbers and see what's the most viable, and I want to feel clever. I don't want to like play a game and then stop to do a math problem that has no impact on the game and then return to the game. Anyway, I went on about that longer than makes sense, so I don't know if I'm going to keep that in the video or not. So we got the cards sorted out, and put those back in there, although I don't know if I'll be keeping that thing. The baggies. Got a big old collection of these baggies. These are very, very thick baggies. They're nice. Got a bunch of 10-siders. Some colors for every player, I'm guessing. Probably black for the enemies. Got your standees with some with different colors. Nice. I love this. I absolutely color code everything possible in the game. So then you can take your dice, you can match them to the base. That's just fantastic. That's something that I do anyway. I've got a bunch of little like hair rubber bands. So rubber bands for like braids, and they're come in different colors, and I use those like on the bases of my miniatures. And then I've got color standee clips that I also use if I'm using standees. So that's great. All right, so here's the first layer of vac form. I don't like vac form plastic. I will probably throw this away if I decide that I'm keeping the game. The only reason I keep these is for long enough. I like supported vac form plastic, but unsupported vac form plastic actually drives me kind of crazy. It's almost like squeaking styrofoam or nails on chalkboard to me. I will say that this is it's nice thick plastic. So this is nice thick plastic, so it feels to me like if you keep it in the game, like you're going to be able to pull it out and set it aside without worried about it getting ruined. So I gotta say I'm impressed with the quality of these components so far. Just this general sturdiness. This standee plastic or the standee cardboard is a good thickness. I think it's thicker. I think it's thicker than average, I would say. I know it's hard to tell. Looking at it, it'll be hard to tell until I actually punch it out. But okay, so I'm gonna set this aside, and we had some cards escape, which I think we do not want. I had one bend. Don't love that, but it's not the end of the world, obviously. Just one card. These must be the stacks of treasure. Maybe some of that is starting treasure stuff. I don't know. I don't know. It actually looks kind of like good stuff. Frost gauntlets and whatnot. Pretty magical looking. Grim Reaper's cloak. I can't think that that's a first level item. Okay, well, just gonna pull these out enough to get them back together for the moment. Yeah, see, I think that you're going to get the cloth gloves and the cloth shoes and the felt doublet for your beginner gear. Wonder if this is the beginner gear. Yeah. So this looks like starter set equipment to me. Cloth set. So you can see like the tremendous amount of loot in this game. Do you see this? Like, this is this is nuts. And I gotta say, I'm like a loot maniac, you know. Even in video games, like I was so hooked on the Borderlands games for a while because I just loved the guns, but I couldn't play it co-op because I had to stop and compare loadouts, like possibilities with, okay, so this is going to be my SMG, and it has flame cover. It has flame ability covered, so now I need to swap out I need something that's going to use handgun ammo and do acid damage. Anyway, I really love loot, and that's one of the main reasons that I decided to get this game. Mini cards, which is nice when you see how many cards fit on these. Okay, so here's the thing. This isn't as big as I thought it was going to be. That looks like Batista to me. Dave Batista, the actor. Okay, so how many of these can I fit? I'm thinking I was right though, and that 3 is going to be about what I want to play, because what is not currently out are these character sheets. So here we've got. So yeah, I'm thinking that I'll try to run 3 characters if possible. We have some warriors. It's like a elven ranger elf type, maybe. It looks like a ninja. Some mages. Got just the character art on the backside. These are cardboard. This cardboard is not as thick as the token cardboard, but that's okay because they don't have to be I don't think they're actually. I mean, the fact that these are board at all instead of just cardstock is really nice. Okay, so here is the character sheet. So you're going to be filling that out and playing it here beside. So you have to know that you need room for that. You've got a campaign overview, your campaign sheet, so that's cool. And it looks like you get bonuses after each campaign scenario. Let's see, so we have to have that overhang a little bit over on the left side to be able to fit everything in to play with 3 characters. So I do hope that works. From what I read, it does. But I only read one person say that. This game is it's well known in the dungeon crawler community right now. At least people who keep aware of crowdfunding games, but outside of that, it's not as well known, and so it's harder to find comments and forum posts about every single aspect of the game. Here we have our monsters. I don't want to spoiler too much, so we'll just show the ones on top. Yeah, see, so it's got the level of the monsters on the back also. We got the gargoyle and the ghoul, goblins, poltergeist. See, so gargoyle is one that I heard that could frustrate you because it's got that armor, and it seems like it'd be really good at chasing you. I'm seeing it's got flight, does not have to jump over holes or obstacles, may move normally into red bordered squares. So I'm guessing that makes it so that it can catch up with you, so making running away a difficult option. The back form plastic here is not the same width as the box exactly. It's a little bit smaller. That's a good idea for when rack form is going to be like lifted out and side to side, but actually I would definitely prefer for this to fit the box exactly, so that it didn't have any flex room and was supported by the sturdier cardboard. But the bottoms of these wells touch touch, and there's a lot of weight in these of cards, so it seems to hold it pretty sturdily. I imagine that when I play the game, I don't know, I may try leaving the box together and setting it over on my side table. I do that sometimes, but I also have. If you watch the Dungeon Dive, there's like a standard issue card display that everyone uses that I tend to use a lot for these things. I'll show it to you. You get this on Amazon, I think, for like $20. You set that there and load all your cards into it, and it doesn't take up as much space. I think that Daniel from the Dungeon Dive is responsible for probably half their sales because they're in like, I think he said that's featured in like 700 Dungeon Dive videos or something, and everyone who watches those ends up getting one. They're really useful, and I mean, especially as somebody who has a small table, that's pretty essential for me. So B, I don't know what that means. What, these are B monsters? P, 4. So we've got some level 4 monsters here, but also some. Okay, wait. So this is random scenario mode. It seems like these are maybe some. These some player aids. Boss monster deck. Possible ways to play with the boss deck. Random scenario mode. That's cool. I like that. Make it feel like your own sandbox by offering different ways to play. Okay, so here are the rooms. I just bought some Pathfinder dungeon tiles, and I'm not super impressed with them. Because they're very bland. They're about this size. I also don't like that they have squared corners, which I'm probably going to punch round, because squared corners are terrible. Squared corners get caught on things. They get mashed up. Like this has cloth on it, and if something's going to snag, it's going to be something with squared corners. So I try to punch everything smooth, punch everything rounded. Get a good corner rounder. It really makes a difference. So these rooms have a lot of stuff in them, a lot of furniture on it. I have dungeon furniture that I've 3D printed that sometimes I'll set out on things like this. So I'll put a table across those, and I'll put some treasure chests where the treasure chests are. Got like some lanterns, it looks like. So the monsters spawn, I believe, on these different monster images. Got like an alchemy table here, or some kind of herbalism table maybe. They're very, very clean, and it makes it look CG, but then I'm seeing brushstroke looking things on here. They're very clean, but I think that makes them look. I think that makes them clear and easy to read. So I think they're going to be highly functional. So these, when you lay these out, these are walls, and you've got the gaps that are doors. And then you've also, I believe there are rooms that they're continuous, and so you build them out, like, and then they make big rooms. And I'm not sure how that works yet, but it sounds interesting. So like I said, anyway, I was saying that I got the Pathfinder cards and I wasn't very happy. I'm not very happy with them because they're very bland. They don't have walls on them. They just have black space, and then they have like rock textured floors. Well, we have some libraries here, but I'm also, if I had my druthers, I like to have cardboard tiles rather than cardstock, but because these have things in them, it would be a crazy amount of cardboard. Like, it'd be stacked up. What would it take? Like 4 times as much space at least. So I understand for the sake of functionality. For me, it just makes a little bit of a difference because I tend to adjust and adjust and adjust, and obviously cardstock gets knocked around more easily. But I mean, if everything's a trade-off, and I think that this was the way to go. I really am liking the variety on these tiles. And when you're adding in random things, or when you're adding things that are specific to the scenario, and then so you've got some random tiles and you've got scenario specific tiles, it seems to me like it's going to make the dungeons feel like real places. Okay, so that looks like everything. It's a nice looking game. I think that I'm gonna be getting this to the table here before too long, and probably do a review of it soon after. So yeah, that was unboxing of Dungeons of Doria, and thanks a lot for hanging out with me, chatting a little bit. So let me know in the comments, like, have you played Dungeons of Doria? Is it a sort of game that you would think you'd like to play? You and dungeon crawlers, what are your favorite loot centric dungeon crawlers? What do you think about the old return of old school crawlers? I've heard that Dungeons of Doria, it's got quite a bit of crunch to it, but it seems like it it pays off. That's my hope, and I think that the AP track says to me that there was uh, some thought towards innovation and put into the game, which is why I ended up buying it, backing it. All right, that's it from me. Have a great rest of your day, and keep playing solo.